Okay, with it being 6:36, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I apologize for the delay. With the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we will start this meeting out with special recognitions. Ms. Jen Joles.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. Tonight we are recognizing some incredible student athletes from Francis Howell High. But first, let's take a look at a pair of javelin throwers who made history this year by breaking state and national records. This is a clip courtesy of Fox 2.
Over at Francis Howell, the two best javelin throwers in the state of Missouri. Last week, senior Bryce Kazmaier set the new state record at 64 meters, which is the best high school throw in the country this year. He's headed to the University of North Carolina to be a decathlete. Fellow senior Mason Brock has the second best throw in the state. The teammates accomplishing this feat at the same meet.
I went to retrieve my javelin. I came back, and everybody's like, that's the state record. You have the state record. And then not too much longer, my coach said, that's the U.S. #1. So I was like, that's crazy to me. I had no idea that I had that capability right off the bat.
My first throw at that meet, I broke the state record. After that, you could kind of tell both of us kind of, realized the stakes, and we could actually, have some really good throws that day. So, yeah, it was awesome. And then watching him bomb that one was amazing.
All right. I don't believe Bryce is here with us tonight, but we want to recognize him for the national record he set and also medaling 4 times at the state meet. Now, the Viking boys track program earned its first ever top 4 finish this year, and while they fell short of winning a team state championship by just 2.5 points, the program did bring home an individual state champion. Mason Brock, who you saw in the video clip, just finished his senior year at Howell High, and he won a state championship in the javelin at the Msba State meet earlier this year. He couldn't be here tonight either, but let's give him a round of applause. We'd also like to recognize Brooke Clemens, who won 2 state championships in the para shot put and the para 100 meter. Brooke medaled in 3 events at the state meet and is the first ever para athlete state champion in Francis Howell history. She also won a state championship 2 years ago. Brooke is here with us tonight, so I'll ask you to come forward, Brooke. I'm not sure where you ended up, but if you want to come forward, and Dr. Hoven will give you a certificate. Oh, she's up there. Okay. Now, if Howell High's Activities Director, Sean Irwin, were here tonight, he would tell you that these individuals are not only amazing student athletes, but also 3 great and humble young people who were excellent representatives and role models for others during their time at Howell High, and we wish them much success in their future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have patron comments. During patron comments, patrons are invited to address the Board of Education. When I call your name, please come to the podium so everyone can hear. The board is interested in public's concerns and opinions. We do not respond to comments or questions during the meeting. Questions and concerns will be addressed by Dr. Hoven and other appropriate staff members at a later date. Please remember that comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Per board protocol, comments about personnel matters and remarks about or directed at individual employees or students are not allowed. And before we get started on public comments, I'd like to ask that we all model the behavior we expect of our children. That means listening to others' viewpoints, even when you don't agree, and refraining from snickering, eye-rolling, and other signs of disrespect when others are speaking. We don't have to agree with one another, but we do need to demonstrate civility and respect. Let's set a good example for our children. So first up, we have Aaron Shetler.
Good evening. I'm a parent in the district, a homeowner, and a taxpayer. I'm not a teacher or a member of the Francis Howell Education Association. I'm here because I value the quality of our schools and the value of my home, and I believe there is no one more important to these two things than FHSD teachers. I'm here to warn you and taxpayers that the decision to take away the full-time support of our great teachers is a bad business decision that will adversely affect the value of our schools and our homes. We may not all be union folks out here in St. Charles County, but we understand one thing. There's a reason why people are beating down our doors to buy homes in the Francis Howell district and paying top dollar for them. There's a reason all the real estate and next door boards say, I'm looking for a house in Francis Howell, but they're going so fast and for so much. People want to live and work and shop and go to church and pay taxes in this district for one reason. We have great schools. We have great schools because we have great teachers. Every time you make a decision that harms teachers, you chip away at that quality and you decrease the value of our district and our homes. I realize the decision to be one of the only full-year in-person districts last year gave Francis Howell a competitive advantage, one that made our real estate agents, including at least some board members, a lot of money on the backs of our teachers. But COVID was temporary. That advantage is gone. If we drive away our good teachers, we might as well sink right to the bottom in school quality and home values. I hope you'll reconsider this misguided policy change that is bad for all taxpayers. And I hope when re-election comes up and the economy ebbs and flows as it will, I hope people will be able to remember you as the ones who kept this district strong and desirable, not the ones who drove away the one thing that made life in our district boundaries better than all the areas around us, our high-quality schools. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ken Gontars.
Good evening. My name is Ken Gontars from St. Charles. And did I get an education on Saturday when my wife accessed your links, and I found out that there were 2 black courses being introduced that I believe were very similar or contained critical race theory content. The 2 documents, a 70 and a 50-page document. One is the Black History curriculum, one is the Black Literature curriculum. And I produced a 1-page flyer of various text words that I believe you'll see are very related to critical race theory. The reason I say that is I went to the UMSL Social Studies website, I went to the WashU Social Studies website, I went to Boston University's, UCLA, numerous others, and saw that the terms that are found in those 2 documents are essentially the same terms that are found in any critical race theory curriculum. At the Rockwood School District, we heard that in the April timeframe, we all know what happened then, right? There was chaos, there was a lot of heat that was generated. And in that school district, the parents wrote to the school board that parents had repeatedly complained that we are pushing an agenda, we are pushing critical race theory, we are making the kids feel bad about their privilege, we are stereotyping, we are teaching the kids to be social activists. Now, there are many black prominent figures that we hear on the news that are opposed to critical race theory. We've got Herschel Walker, Charles Barkley, Clarence Thomas, Tim Scott, Candace Owen, Leo Terrell, Stacey Washington, Charles Payne, Ben Carson, Alan West, Thomas Sowell, David Webb, In addition to that, I contacted this week Josh Hawley's office, Ann Wagner's, Bill Eigel, who's here in the back, and Phil Cristofanelli, and they are all opposed to any critical race theory. In addition to that, there are 24 states currently debating or proposing legislation to prevent critical race theory. They are saying that it is divisive, it is hurtful, it pits whites against blacks. And some of the states that we have right now are Florida, Arkansas, Idaho, Oklahoma, that have already passed legislation. In addition to that, we got Michigan, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, South Dakota.
Thank you. Your
My time is up. But
Next up, we have Vivian Gontars.
Yes, my name is Vivian Gontars, and I live in the Heritage neighborhood. Yes, that is my husband. I just want to say that I read the documents that were on the website describing the curriculum for the Black History and Black Literature courses. I want to thank you guys also for your service on the board. Unfortunately, the only time sometimes we have contact with our public servants is when we got something to complain about, but I did write a letter, and thank you, Mary Lang, for responding to that. My first question was, wasn't there already Black literature and Black history included in your current courses now? And you didn't answer that particularly. There should be. All people, whether they have different races, sexuality, whatever, should be recognized for their contributions. But having done some education myself, I don't find this helpful to our students. When I was going through school, you were lucky to get through history, Civil War by the end of December, and then the rest of the year you spent zooming through all your other history, World War I, World War II, current events. There's so much more that these kids have to cover. Why do you have to have special elective courses for this? That was my first question. I don't think it's helpful. And there's nothing to prevent somebody, if they're interested in these topics, to go ahead and research them. Go ahead. Go ahead and read them on your own. Number two, I was surprised at the length of these courses, again, for the volume of material that these kids have to cover nowadays. Number three, when I clicked on some of the links, they didn't call it critical race theory, they called it meeting social justice standards. But by any other name, it is what it is. Anything that groups people according to their outward appearance, their sexuality, their race, their nationality, is the very thing that my generation has had to fight. I'm 68 years old, and I think we've made progress, and I think this is a step backwards. And although you describe it as an elective course for high schoolers, once you get it into the system, there is curriculum all the way down through kindergarten. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to start it, and I'm going to work against it. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right, next up we have Angela Sproul.
We keep talking about having our voices heard. Why? Taking the release time from the president of FHEA is silencing our voice. Why are you afraid? Voices are empowering, inspiring, encouraging, and life-changing. History's shown us this. Rosa Parks, who stood up by sitting down, that ignited a 381-day bus boycott. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., with his speech, "I Have a Dream," ignited a movement that changed the world. There are other speeches and declarations that have ignited change. People matter, we're valuable, our voice is powerful. When a baby's born, everyone's waiting and watching, some even with their bodies up against doors, with their ears pressing against it. What do they await with anticipation? It's simple, one voice. For some, it comes quickly, and others, it feels like an eternity. When you hear it, your body fills with emotions. A baby cries out for the first time. There's nothing like it. Every voice is unique, not like any other. One voice seems to scream, "Hello world, here I am." From a young age, we learn our voice is powerful. We use our voice to meet our needs, communicate our feelings, emotions, and ideas. In our classrooms and on the playground, we can encourage this. Use your words. Your words have power. Sometimes we take our voices for granted. Across the world, people are using their voices to speak out and speak up. We're not alone. One voice can make a difference. Our voices matter. These past few years have been challenging for all educators. We find ourselves doing more and more with less. Our classrooms are crowded. Sure, you shared the average number, but have you been in classrooms to actually count? Why are some class sizes in buildings lower than others? Are some students more valuable than others? We've used our voice to express feelings, emotions, and our ideas. We've taught our students to do the same. We listen when students, families, parents, administrators in our community speak out. We value their voice. If you recall, the 1920 school year ended abruptly, and we felt much of the world shut down. We listened. Not too long ago, we had a Black Voices Matter march and rally. Our voices were heard. Is anyone listening to us besides our students, families, and colleagues? Sometimes our voices get lost, much like our students. The courage to speak out is lost. Together with help and support of others, we find our voice. It's powerful and inspiring, even as a young child. I need help. Can I help you? I need a break. Want to play with me? Want to sit by me? I'll show you. Stop. No. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm valued. I matter. Members of the board, what does your voice say about you and your values? It only takes one voice to ignite a movement. Who has the courage to be our spark? Thank you to my friends and our FHEA president for being my voice. One voice can speak for thousands. Taking the release time from the president of FHEA is silencing our voices. We need to be heard. Are you listening?
Next up, we have Janie Wilkins. Janie Wilkins.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs tells us that we must meet psychological requirements for our students before they can reach self-actualization. So we, as educators, stock our desk drawers with snacks, build relationships with and among students, and some educators even drive all over our attendance area in a pandemic to meet students face-to-face. It's as simple and as complicated as it sounds. We meet students where they're at, and we get them to be the educated citizens our district's mission statement proclaims. It's really the best part of the job. Recently, we wonder who at the district level is willing to meet the needs of our staff. You see, we also operate on Maslow's pyramid, and whether or not we can reach self-actualization directly impacts our work with students. As a top workplace in the area, we expect the district to support our needs. Let's consider the rest of Maslow's pyramid of needs. The next level up is safety needs. Like students, educators need to feel safe and secure. This past fall, many of us didn't, and we didn't feel as if you were listening to us on that. We taught anyway, and we gave the district the ability to brag about how FHSD offered 5 days in person all year. That was on our shoulders, even when some of our basic needs of safety were not being met. The next level is belongingness and love needs. We met these each for each other by trading tech tips, reinventing and reimagining every single thing we do. We felt love and belonging from each other, but we didn't feel it from you. A webinar with our superintendent didn't give a sense of love and belonging. A short email at the end of Teacher Appreciation Week didn't offer a sense of love and belonging. Yet we defied Maslow and pushed on anyway, fueled by our love for and from our students and each other. Is it even worth trying to reach the next level of Maslow's hierarchy, esteem? How could we possibly have our psychological needs of self-esteem, respect, freedom, recognition, and strength fulfilled when some of our most basic needs aren't met? We're stubborn. We tried anyway, until contract negotiations made us feel voiceless and disrespected. the opposite of Maslow's suggestions. Who was showing up for us? Where was the school board we helped get elected? We voiced our concerns and you responded with cuts, including one of our biggest advocates, our FHEA president. The role is of the utmost importance for educators to feel recognized, for educators to feel empowered, and for educators to have workplace needs met. And you have chosen to gut our pyramid of needs. This is a huge mistake because our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. We can only get to the top of our respective pyramids if we're all climbing together. When a student acts out in a classroom, we try to figure out how to better support them by meeting their needs. Are you listening to us? Do you see the signs, social media posts, and emails we are sending? We may not always see eye to eye, but transparency and compromise and conversations solve.
Time is up.
Next up, we have Bill McGee.
Hello. All right, first off, I want to talk about masks. And first, I want to apologize. And I know you guys can't talk to me, so I'm not going to look, and I'm just going to ramble off here. First, I want to apologize for an email I sent earlier this month to the board members. That kind of verbiage is not helpful in any manner, and I will be better going forward. To me, it seems like the board's stance here is that we are blocked by quarantine guidelines from removing masks on the children. Dr. Hoven, you stated that if we did not wear our masks in the way we do, we would have had an additional 206 people forced to quarantine in May. This level, in my opinion, is where it would be reasonable to start wondering if the 206 quarantines is worth continuing to stunt our kids' academic, social, and emotional health. 206 extra quarantines in a district of 16,756 students plus 2,410 faculties equals 1% of our school's population. Having a 2-week at most inconvenience for 1% of our district population as opposed to forcing masks on children and the swath of future problems that this will cause is no longer a trade-off that equates anymore. Certainly this factor is lessened even more for summer programs. The county sets the quarantine guidance for our schools. Why are we not battling at that level? An update in November, other than the shortening of quarantine guidelines update, is simply unacceptable of our county officials. Considering what's at stake and the amount of pissed off citizens in our county, I would think a weekly update of some kind would be plausible, at least monthly. Times are strange now, but pursuing what is best for our children is and always should be the #1 priority. So Dr. Hoven, if you need to call up Dr. Kane, Dr. Dubray, Dr. Sefrit, Dr. Musi, and Dr. Kephart to go down to the county together and demand an updated answer on quarantine guidance, then that should be the necessary next step. If you all need a driver to carpool, I will happily pick you all up so we can do something about it. It is not November 2020 anymore, and November 2020 should not guide 2021, period. Do not accept this scenario just because you can rationally point blame at somebody else. As a community leader, running the football to the exact point you cannot be blamed is not inspiring. It's lazy and/or cowardice. As a leader of Francis Howell, you need to be pounding the table, kicking in doors, and demanding better than once an 8-month update on the biggest factor in determining masking guidelines for our school. Secondly, Pebble Go. Later, the board is going to vote on the Pebble Go software that will give our students a swath of articles to enrich their education. This software sounds great. The idea is good for giving our children additional information on animals, health, science, social studies, and biographics. I did not have much time to look into the articles, but the website does provide a list of the articles in each category. So I took a peek at the biographics section. Rather large group of distinguished people in here. So I went into the subset of just women. FYI, no subset for men. In this section, there is an entirety of great individuals, seriously great and deserving of the list. However, it is very clear the side of the aisle that this pushes. For instance, there are 17 first ladies on the list, no Melania Trump. There are a handful of political activists on the list, but none that support conservative ideas. There are a handful of politicians on the list, like senators, governors, and representatives. Again, the choice on the lists are reputable, but completely one-sided on ideology and political party.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Next up, we have Katie Rash.
Hi. I'm going to veer off script a little bit tonight because I see that we might have a news camera here. I'd just like to be clear that all of us, whether or not we agree with what we would call critical race theory, We love our kids in our district, and we want to be inclusive. I want to make sure that that is clear. But there is an ideological difference. We need to be talking about the ideological framework for the curriculum, okay? I will direct you to an article from the consultant who was the consultant who helped with the design of the Black History curriculum. This article is a 2018 article called Making Inquiry Critical, Examining Power and Inequity in the Classroom. This is co-authored by Ryan Crowley and Dr. LeGarrette King. I would encourage everyone to read this article and then to view the curriculum through the lens of that article to understand the ideology. He links it back to Marxism. That's not just people who watch Fox News. That is what Dr. King says himself. You can look it up for yourself. Okay? And I'm sorry, I did not mean for that to sound rude, but so I just would encourage you to read that. We can also see in some of the terminology for the courses, both the literature and the history courses. Here are some of the terms. Dominant identity group, white privilege, identity, meritocracy, hegemony. That's a CRT term, right? Moral values, moral reframing. By the way, my church would have a way of defining moral values. How does our district define that? I'd like to know it. It's not in the documents. Can we have a glossary of terms? Moral reframing, intersectionality. I also think it's very important that we speak to one of the activities in the literature course. This is an identity mapping activity. There's no information in the curriculum that explains that parents are to get information that this activity is occurring. Students will be mapping things such as gender identity, religion, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. First, is that the business of our educators? Is it? And why would we ever do this without the permission and consent of parents? Have you heard of something called PPRA? This is a qualitative survey. Identity mapping is a qualitative survey. The district could be legally liable for this, and it is certainly unethical. Thank you.
Next up, we have Lori Richardson.
Good evening. I would like to start and thank everyone for making the past year a success. As a teacher in the district, I think we did an amazing job educating, keeping our students safe, and increasing mental health for all of our students. I'm happy to see the district is moving to increase the voices of all of the people in our district, especially having an elective option of Black history and literature at the high school level. We are a strong district when we work together. I've spent the past 27 years in the district as an educator. Through those years, the district has experienced many ups and downs. As a young teacher, I remember when FHEA was granted a full-time release president. I remember the excitement that the teachers had that someone would now be released from their classroom to provide a valuable service to the teachers of the district while not taking away from the education and needs of the students in their classes. FHEA, the Francis Howell administration, and the school board have all worked together to make this a great district. This collaborative effort has put in place many positive outcomes for students, parents, and staff in the district. Now I am shocked and saddened that the district has chosen to move in a different direction, sending us back 26 years where we started on this journey. As an FHEA member, I was blindsided with this decision and the fact that the admin negotiation team was unwilling to work to a compromise or seek mediation on the matter. My question to you is this: when in the 26 years were complaints and problems with a full-time release president ever brought to light and discussed with FHEA? When did these complaints first surface? Why, all of a sudden, has this become an issue and never been addressed with the association? Now tonight, the board has waived a second reading of the changes to the board policy and will move to eliminate the full-time release president. The decision to waive the second reading of the proposed policy changes does not allow for the community to discuss these changes. If the board votes to approve these changes, it's a done deal. End of discussion, end of let's work together. This fast track to eliminate the position signals to teachers that it is the administration's way of doing things. This is cracking our trust in the administration and the board that we, the association, are still in a collaborative partnership. This is taking us down a road that some of us have traveled before, and it does not set up a positive working relationship. I am most concerned about the FHEA president being able to do a high-quality job of teaching while handling the needs of the teachers in the association. To the board members, you have a choice tonight. You can vote against the proposed changes to the board policy. You can vote to allow a second reading to allow input from the community. Show your teachers in this district that you are willing to work for a better resolution. Thank you.
Next up, we have Lori Adams. Lori Adams.
Hi, I am a mom here fighting for our children. It is time to let them breathe and be kids. As a resident, taxpayer, and voter in the Francis Howell School District, I want to remind the board that you work for us. We do not work for you. Your number one job is to educate our children, to develop curriculum that enhances their critical thinking skills, not to tell them how to think. We entrust in you to hire talented teachers and pay them well for their hard work. It is my job to make health decisions for my kids. Currently, there are no laws requiring mask mandates for our kids in schools. Mass contact tracing and quarantine guidelines are being considered for 2021-2022 school. These decisions lie solely in your hands. This has been a complete overreach of your authority and was never intended to be granted by the taxpayers in this district. Masks do not work. Masks block particles, not aerosols, which is how COVID spreads. Masks make our kids sicker. Skin irritations, respiratory issues, plus more, not to mention the mental illness issues because they've been withdrawn from key social experiences. Your decisions today could put our kids back on the right track. Please let them be kids without restrictions so they can make new friendships, attend school dances such as homecoming and prom, participate in school sports, travel on field trips, attend graduation in person with all their family present. While you may think we are winning, the battle for the war has just started for so many of our kids. The long-term effect of your past decisions are going to be felt for years to come. As I speak to parents, most appreciate Francis Howell School District for doing everything they could to deliver in-person learning in 2020. Amazing teachers delivered both in-person and virtual learning at the last minute. Unfortunately, we have incredible teachers focusing more now on how our kids are wearing their masks versus how they're educating them. This is not right to ask of our teachers. There was a teacher that wore 3 masks in a class. She proudly announced that she was vaccinated and promoted that our kids should too. She told them to mask up 40 times within that hour, giving multiple in-school suspensions during class when the mask slipped below down their nose too many times. How can kids learn and be excited about coming to school in that kind of an environment? Is she a doctor? Does that give her the authority to tell our kids that they should be vaccinated? These are the things that I do not feel are the core.
Time is up.
And we have time for one more speaker. We'll do one more speaker, and Chris Brooks.
I'll be quick. At the last board meeting, I shared my thoughts on the proposed Black Lit curriculum. Tonight, we're going to talk about Black history. From the start, this curriculum relies on the same Southern Poverty Law Center social justice standards that the literature one does. These standards train students to see everything in terms of race, sex, privilege, oppression. They have nothing to do with history and everything to do with pushing a political worldview. Now, a little bit of history here. When the writing team first started this project, they chose to read together a wonderful book, Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, the critical race theorist. This book has full of quotes taken out of context, original documents that he misinterprets willfully, and judgments of past figures by present-day standards and culture. Bad history. I suspect the writing team didn't discuss the book's accuracy, but instead how to use it to set up the units for the Black History course. So, in our Black History curriculum, you will learn about blacks protesting in recent times, but nothing about how the Communist Party infiltrated them during the 60s. You'll learn about Reagan's war on drugs, but nothing about Johnson's Great Society and the harm it did to families. You'll learn about Colin Kaepernick kneeling on the football field, but nothing about Booker T. Washington's schools. The curriculum team claims that a one-semester course is too short to present the entirety of Black history, and yet we find time in the course taken up with activities about cultural practices around the world, healthcare systems around the world, and a unit on Trayvon Martin. There's an activity on the Supreme Court and civil rights, but it talks about why we fought World War II. Cancel culture gets its own activity, even though it's not quite history yet. And let's not forget the activity on protesting that talks about reasons for protesting the Vietnam War. I suppose we could tie it to Black history, but I have trouble finding the connection. Folks, it's not that this course reveals some previously untaught aspects of history. It doesn't. Students could learn the exact same stuff reading headlines in the New York Times. It conceals history by focusing on small units that are taken out of context and focusing on the headlines. History is a series of causes and events which we need to place in context to understand them. That is entirely missing in the curriculum before you. If you only read the course description and only heard the wonderful speeches praising it from a few board meetings ago, you could be forgiven for thinking that students in this course would learn a rich and detailed story of Black civilization and individuals throughout history. It's a shame the actual document bears no resemblance to that described course. It's a mixed up mess of buzzwords, simplistic narratives, and irrelevant activities. This course does nothing to solve the problem of limited Black history material in our courses. It doubles down on it by presenting a limited, one-sided, opinion-filled activist pedagogy. Students coming out of this class may be prepared to protest injustices in the world, but they won't have any idea of how to create a better one, and that would be a tragedy. I urge the board to reject this curriculum and start over again. And in case people wonder how this course ties to critical race theory, I have a handout to pass out to the board and Dr. Hoven here, which I'll pass up here. Thank you.
Next up, we have FHEA. FHEA.
Good evening. I'm Raquel Babb, the second vice president of FHEA. Early in negotiations, district administration approached FHEA about agreeing to a pay freeze on steps to save 20 jobs. Since we anticipated being frozen anyway, we accepted with some contingencies, guaranteed lane changes, a possible step, if revenue came in above $5.4 million, and a one-time stipend if the ESSER money met a trigger. The following evening, administration told you and the public that the ESSER money saved those jobs. FHEA is proud that we were able to secure both the jobs and the stipend for all staff through our negotiation and sacrifice. After 14 tentative agreements, admin shared their intention to eliminate the full-time release of the FHEA president after 26 years. We responded to financial concerns, offering to reimburse the district for all but one day to ensure our president would be a district employee. We responded to community concerns, although we were unable to find any, not even one in the emails that were sunshine requested from July 1st of last year through April 26th of this year. After March's board meeting, when Dr. Pam Sloan spoke, there were 106 pages of emails in support from staff and patrons. We responded to a perceived accountability by reminding everyone that our president is evaluated by the district on a formal evaluation that details the job responsibilities. Only one other comparison district has an evaluation, and our president has met the top score on all of her evaluations. We responded to assumed gaps in instructional knowledge by detailing professional development that our president has both participated in and led. It should also be noted that most of the chiefs have been out of the classroom longer than our president. We responded to district initiatives and discovered that the expectation from administration is that our members are only allowed to agree rather than use their advanced degrees and vast experience to make up their own minds. Despite our notifying the admin team that our members would not support a closure document that included this removal, they did not modify their proposal, refused mediation, and forced us to accept a closed session where we presented our case to the very body who had helped craft the plan. The board chose to eliminate the full-time release, so that was added to our closure document. On June 4th, 82% of our members voted not to ratify, with the majority of members voting. And tonight, without even giving a second reading officially to allow the public to know and respond, you plan to amend board policy to eliminate this release, even though your teachers and the public have asked you not to. We urge you not to make this change because teachers' working conditions are our students' learning conditions. Thank you.
Next up, we have Msba. 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 No Msba? Okay. Board, I would like a motion to approve the agenda for June 17th, 2021 as presented. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the June 3rd, 2021 minutes as presented. All in favor? Any opposed? Next, we'll have our MSBA board report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of June. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the recently completed regular session of the Missouri General Assembly, a session that included the passage of a bill establishing the state's first ever tax credit voucher program. The bill initially authorizes $25 million in tax credits for donations to what's called an education assistance organization that would provide scholarships to students attending home, private, virtual, or public schools. MSBA strongly opposed the bill for allowing taxpayer dollars to be used to pay fees and tuition to private or home schools that are not accountable to the public. Despite that disappointing vote, there were some successes during the session, including the defeat of legislation that would have expanded charter schools beyond St. Louis and Kansas City, and attempts to move school board elections to the November general election date. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says school board member contacts with legislators made a difference on those and other issues.
And I really appreciate all of our members going out and hammering their representatives and their senators about that bill, and in fact hammering them on the ESA bill. After the ESA bill passed the House, I was told by more than one representative, that's it. We're not going to pass another education bill because we don't want to be hammered by our constituents. So our members did a great job in getting the word out. We just need to keep holding representatives and senators' feet to the fire to make when they say they're representing education and they're trying to help your district, make sure that they are.
MSBA's positions on state and federal education issues are determined by the Delegate Assembly that will be meeting this coming November. If your school board has a position statement on an issue you would like to submit to the Advocacy Committee for consideration, you can do so. The Advocacy Committee reviews those proposals and makes recommendations to the Delegate Assembly that determines MSBA's positions on the issues. The deadline for submitting a new or revised position statement is September 1st. Economic development tax abatements given to businesses cost Missouri public school districts more than $130 million a year in fiscal year 2019, according to data collected by a group called Good Jobs First. MSBA has advocated for many years to reform tax abatements that have a significant impact on school district revenue, including allowing local voters the opportunity to opt out of tax abatement projects impacting funding for public schools, and giving school boards veto power over their portion of any tax abatement project. Good Jobs First Executive Director Greg Leroy tells us that rather than granting tax abatements, investing in schools is the smart economic development strategy.
If you disinvest your public sector, and obviously at the top of the list is schools, but it also means infrastructure and parks and quality of life and public safety now with the pandemic. If you disinvest the public sector, you make it hard to attract reinvestment in the private sector, right? Because if you're expecting to attract companies with good jobs in the information age technology now, you got to have great schools. You're not going to attract families to transfer into an area with marginal schools, for example, or marginal quality of life.
Leroy urges school boards to advocate for their revenue sources.
I think that school board leaders are uniquely positioned to become business climate crusaders for Missouri. I think you can make a very compelling case that by defending funding for schools and in protecting the quality of your schools, by protecting your funding base, you can grow the state's economy better than giving away the store.
Good Jobs First is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group that promotes accountability in economic development. It's no secret that teachers are the biggest school-based factor in student success and the single most influential component of an effective school. And it's also no secret that recruiting and retaining teachers remains a significant challenge for school districts throughout Missouri and the nation. That's especially true as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. To help address the issue, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has announced a $50 million investment to grow Missouri's teacher workforce. That money is available through federal COVID-19 relief funds. DESE will make $10,000 grants available to school districts to establish or expand Grow Your Own programs that encourage high school students to consider teaching as a career, along with grants to implement strategies designed to improve teacher retention. We recently spoke to a graduating senior who plans to become a teacher, Marion Benyon from the Camdenton School District.
I've loved, being at school and just experiencing that. I've had a lot of opportunities being able to teach other people, and being able to help other people reach their full potential has just been really insightful to me. Just helping people find their passions is just what I've been really focused on, and that's what I want to do.
Marion was among the students who participated in a signing ceremony for those graduating seniors in Camdenton who are pursuing a college degree in education. MSBA encourages Missouri students to consider pursuing a career in education. Make your plans now to attend the 2021 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators, to be held November 4th through 7th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature more than 100 sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, all in our new location at the Kansas City Convention Center. Registration information for the conference will be posted on the MSBA website. And don't forget the 2021 Safe Schools and Colleges Forum, sponsored by MSBA's Center for Education Safety, that will be held this year on November 4th in conjunction with the annual conference in Kansas City. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Next up, we have our best practice with our Transportation Department, Ms. Jen Simpson.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me some time to present tonight and tell you a little bit about our Transportation Department here in Francis Howell. As you mentioned, my name's Jen Simpson, and I'm proud to be the Transportation Director for our district. Is there a clicker? There we go. So first, I just want to give you a snapshot of what our department looks like. As you know, Francis Howell brought transportation in-house about 2 years ago at this point. We were putting things together at this time 2 summers ago, and have grown to a team of 228 members right now. We're made up of operations managers, safety supervisors, routers, dispatchers, drivers, monitors, fuelers, mechanics, and all together we make up a really great team that I'm very proud to be the leader of here in Francis Howell. We currently have 191 buses, and we operate out of 2 facilities, one on St. Peter's Howell Road and the other out by the high school, Howell High. The main focus of our department is always safety. We do a lot of things to make sure that we're transporting all of our students safely every day. We spend a good amount of time in training. Just over the last, since March of 2020, we have spent over 100 hours of virtual training. So when the district went out for COVID last year, we quickly put together some new programs so that we could virtually train all of our drivers and monitors. And so each week they had assignments to complete different training sessions. And that was a big stretch for our department. We don't do a lot of virtual things in transportation. And so it was really exciting to watch our team learn from those lessons. We also spend a lot of hours obviously doing in-person training, lots of mentoring and one-on-one training for our drivers, as well as teaching new folks how to drive a school bus and how to become monitors. We also are working to develop a new training program for the federal guidelines that are going to begin in February. This is guidelines that have been in place. The date's been pushed out a couple times now, but the goal is to make sure that everyone in our business throughout the nation is having equal training for our drivers. We want to make sure that all of our kids are safe everywhere, and so there are lots of new guidelines to ensure that that happens. I'm excited to say that adopting that new program really wasn't much of a stretch for us. There are a lot of districts that are struggling and looking for outside vendors to do their training, but what we found is that our training program was actually very compatible with the new requirements. They were things we were doing already, so it was just about packaging it a little bit different, so that was exciting to see. Since December of 2019, we've licensed 9 new drivers. When we came to when we incorporated with Francis Howell, we were able to hire a lot of the folks that had been drivers for First Student for years. And so because of that, we have a very experienced team that have lots and lots of years of experience. One of our most seasoned drivers has been a driver here in Francis Howell for over 40 years. So she's a pretty amazing lady. In addition to that, we also have a large number of drivers that have been here for over 20 years. So we're very, very excited about the team that we have here in Francis Howell. On our professional development days, we do large trainings. I promise these pictures were pre-COVID, so that's why no one has on masks. But we bring in guest speakers from around the area to provide new and interesting ways for our staff to learn how to deal with situations. And one of the most popular speakers that we've brought in, his name is Gary Moore, and he does active shooter training on for school buses. And he really focuses on some past experiences of things that have happened, and it's really eye-opening for our drivers. He does a great job of presenting, and he's just one of many speakers. We also work closely with the TSA here in St. Louis. and they come out and do a lot of situational preparedness for our drivers. They we have a bus rodeo this year. That was the first time we've ever done that here in Francis Howell. And the TSA came out and they worked with our team and they planted items on the bus. So during the pre-trip exercise, the drivers had to identify those items, and so that was something kind of fun and different for our drivers here in Francis Howell. And the TSA really enjoys getting to come out and work with school bus drivers, so we welcome their expertise and experience. As you see, there's a list of other folks and types of trainings that we do all the time, just to try to make sure that our drivers are well versed in doing their job, drivers and monitors. This year, well, over the last 2 years, we've been working to make our department as efficient as possible. And one of the ways that we have done that is to actually reduce the number of bus routes that we have each year. One thing that has happened in the past here in Francis Howell is we routed every student on a bus. And over the last 2 years, we've discovered that by only routing the students that ride, we're able to become much more efficient in our department. And so you can see that over the last 2 years, we have reduced our number of runs, and these are runs. And just to get a little geeky for a second, a route is made up of a couple runs. So a high school route is there's a high school run, a middle school run, and an elementary school run. So we didn't reduce routes by this many, but that's how many runs we actually reduced. And then in turn, we're able to package our routes differently, which saved on staffing costs and miles and all of those other expenditures from there. So this is just a quick glance at how many runs it takes at each of our schools in 2019-20, and then compared to 2020-21. Now, of course, we transported a lot less students this year as well. So that also played a role in this reduction. We saw on average about 3,000 students less being transported this year over last year. So that also contributed to this reduction. One of the things that we're very excited about is some of the schools that are outside of our district, like Applied Behavior Solutions and Center for Autism. A lot of our students with special needs in the past were transported by cab. And what we have worked really hard to do is provide a seat on a school bus for the children that attend these programs. And so we've been able to bring a lot of students back from cabs and put them on school buses, where I personally believe they belong. And so you can see there's some increase in routes there, but it's to bring our kids off of cabs, which actually saves money as well. The places we go lots of places, as you can imagine. In addition to our daily transportation, we also take students to all kinds of field trips. Last year, we transported children to 772 field trips and sporting events throughout the year. This year, obviously, that number was reduced. We've only hit 511 so far. But still, that's a good number. Obviously, that was reduced because of COVID, but we look forward to increasing that number again next year and providing lots of opportunities for our kiddos. Last year, even with us ending school in March, we traveled over 1.6 million miles. This year, we have already broken that 2 million mile mark for this school year. So we go lots of places. These are just a few of the kind things that have been said about our department. Hopefully, if you speak to parents and to schools, you'll hear these same kind of accolades. We have really enjoyed getting to become a part more and more of the district and work with our ADs and our principals and our teachers and our parents, and feel like it's been a great win-win for everybody. So we appreciate the opportunity. One of our big successes this year is that we completed union negotiations with the Union Local 610. I want to say thank you to all the folks at this table who helped with that. That was a major project, and it proved to be very successful. And at this point, we are operating well with the union, and they are working closely with us to help manage and improve the department. And so that's a relationship that I look forward to sustaining for a long time. In transportation, back before my days in transportation, they used to have big maps on the walls, and they'd put push pins and crazy colored yarn, and that's how they would route buses. I hear stories about that often. Luckily, I came into it at a different era, and we use technology. And as you can see, we use lots of different technology in our department, everything from our routing software to the software that manages our field trips to the software that manages our our service department and helps our mechanics to keep everything in tip-top shape. We use On Command, which is GPS information and also helps with the diagnostic component of our school buses. Gatekeeper is our cameras. We work with Infinite Campus, obviously. We piggyback with them and TransFinder to route our students. We also have digital radios on all of our buses, and all of our drivers have tablets where they do their pre-trip. So technology is a huge part of our department, and I just have to say thanks to our technology department because they do a fabulous job of keeping us up and running. So they are a big player in our game. Just to give a few celebrations, like I said, we've completed a federal clearinghouse. This is a new registry that is taking place in the United States, and the purpose of this is to make sure that if a driver has had accidents or bad experiences or tested positive for drugs in another state, that they can't come to our state and get their CDL. So that's never happened before. In the transportation industry, we do a great job of watching our drivers here in our state, but there's never been anything about crossing state lines. And so back in 2016, there was a fatal bus accident in Chattanooga where 6 children were killed and a few other really bad accidents around that time. And what they discovered is that drivers who had bad experiences were jumping state lines and being able to drive in other states. And so this new registry is now going to help to verify and make sure that all of our drivers are safe to drive in every state. So that was a big undertaking, and we were able to complete that process. We also were able to start delivering food to our families in need this year. And so we have delivered countless meals at this point, from March of 2020 up until right this past week, and we'll continue to do that as long as that program is available. And that, guys, thank you. Thank you. That has been a really great experience for all of us that have been involved, so we appreciate the district committing to that. We also have a phone bank of folks that are mostly retired employees from the Francis Howell District that come and work with us at the beginning of each school year to help answer all of the phone calls and get everything ready for us to go, and that has proven to be very successful as well. This year we were able to participate in a Parents as Teacher event. There was a virtual event where we had a driver that came in and she read school bus stories to the students on the webinar, and they sang songs and the whole bit. So that was a really fun experience for us as well. Every year we have the Highway Patrol that comes in and does a bus inspection, and they look at every single bus with a microscope. And so far, we have done really well. The first year that we did that in June, we achieved a 99%. And this year in April, when we had to do it in the rain and while school was in session, we still achieved a 98%. So we're very proud of that and the fleet that we operate here in Francis Howell. So. We've implemented a Transportation Advisory Committee. That committee is made up of both drivers that are union and are not union, and they work together with me every month, and we look at ways that we can improve our department and make sure that we're addressing any concerns that the drivers see going on in our buildings and in our buses, and it's just another way to help improve our department. So that has also proven to be very successful, and I'm excited to work with that team. Like I said, we ratified the agreement this year, which was exciting. And also, our drivers, many of the drivers before coming to work for Francis Howell did not have health insurance. That wasn't a part of their job for first student, unfortunately. And so because that is a benefit that they have here in Francis Howell, we have found lots of our drivers that are getting quality health care really for the first time in their lives. And so we want to say thank you for allowing them to have that. We really appreciate that. That's our department in a nutshell. As I mentioned, we this year transported over 7,000 students every day, and last year it was over 10,000. So we look forward to getting those numbers a little higher again next year. We believe that we know that the very safest way to get kids to and from school is in a yellow school bus. It is the safest means of ground transportation. So we love to have children in our school buses and look forward to a little different year next year. We're hoping for that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have our Prop S construction reports.
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. We provided the board with some information. We have already started to move dirt at Francis Howell North, so as soon as school was out, that work began, so we're very excited about that project. You may see there are a number of construction dumpsters outside of our buildings. Hoff Construction has really begun to get underway with the remodeling of our buildings to include security vestibules so that when school starts this fall, we'll be able to have a safer entrance for all of our students. And tonight, the board is going to be approving the concrete package for Francis Howell North, the next major milestone in that construction project. And just beyond that will be the approval of the steel package. We are currently working on developing that, getting that RFP out on the street. SM Wilson will evaluate those responses, and we'll try to bring that to the board in as timely a manner as possible. We noted in the report that we may need a special meeting. We want to take advantage of the opportunity to get our decision made as quickly as possible. There's a very tight market for some of the materials, and we want to make sure that we act as quickly as possible so as not to delay the overall project. So things are moving forward very, very well, and we're excited about all the improvements to our district as a result of Proposition S.
Thank you. All right, next up, board, I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda for June 17th, 2021 as presented. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented. Any discussion, board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve the 2021-2022 preliminary budget as presented. Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. We had an opportunity to have a work session with the board in May, and then we had our first reading at the last meeting. So I think we've had ample opportunity to address concerns that the board had. I'm hopeful for approval. Thank you.
Any discussion, board? Questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve the May 2021 monthly financial report as presented. Would you add anything, Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. The one thing I would point out is we had this discussion at an earlier meeting that we were notified by our natural gas supplier that due to the winter storm that took place in February, that there was going to be a much larger natural gas bill than what we had typically seen. We did, I mentioned it in the memo, but we did receive that bill, and it was a little more than 10 times what we would usually pay. We have been working with our natural gas supplier to reduce the cost as much as possible, and I know that our supplier has currently filed a complaint with the Missouri Public Service Commission trying to see if they can avoid paying some of the penalties that were imposed by Spire as a result of the lack of natural gas deliveries. So ongoing work, we'll continue to focus on that. We work through the MSBA consortium, so I know they'll be good partners with us on that. But since we talked about it publicly before, I wanted to just close that loop and let the public know that that's where we are.
Perfect, thank you. Any other discussion, questions, board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve insurance plan changes, employee premiums, and district contribution rates for the 2021-22 plan year as presented. Mr. Supple?
Thank you. Just to reiterate, the board has agreed very graciously to not pass along any additional out-of-pocket cost for employees. So all of the increased funding for continuing the same level of insurance benefits is being funded by the district this year to the tune of almost $1 million. And so we're very thankful to the board for helping to keep our benefits at a great level and to not pass on any out-of-pocket expense to our employees.
I just want to clarify that you said we're not passing on to our employees, but that's also our employees, and if they have a spouse, children, or family coverage, we're not passing on additional increases to those either, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Hain, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to contract with CARE ATC for operation and management of the district's near-site clinic as presented.
We've partnered with CARE ATC since we introduced the clinic, and they've been a great partner to work with. I'm very happy to report that our utilization has increased to the level that it's necessary to add some additional hours at the clinic in order to meet the demand. So again, you heard Mrs. Simpson earlier this evening mention that our transportation employees are taking advantage. I know that our support personnel through Msba and our teachers through FHEA are also making good use of the clinic, and we receive very positive ratings. So very happy to continue our partnership.
Great. Any other questions, discussion, board? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve the 2021-2022 teacher salary schedule and one-time stipend as presented. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you. As you heard tonight, administration and FHA did come to a tentative agreement regarding salary for the 21-22 school year. And while our closure document, including all of those tentative agreements, was not ratified by FHA membership, administration would recommend honoring the salary agreements that we came to. And so that information is detailed in the memo. We appreciate and value the work that our teachers have done. We know this last year has been very trying through the pandemic. And utilizing those one-time stipends, we are asking through the ESSER funds, asking that we can pass some of that on to our teachers in lieu of the salary increase.
Okay, any discussion, board? Questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the 25-step salary schedule. If there is ever an opportunity for us to relook at that, I think there are a lot of hard feelings in the district that are created by having a salary schedule that we aren't following. So I would like us to, get that on the radar, that, sorry. But if we're gonna have a 25-step salary schedule, then we need to make it to where our employees are able to get to that 25th step. So I just want us to have that on the radar.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve policy and regulation 4832 CR as revised.
Second.
Any discussion, board?
Yeah, I just have one point of possible clarification. Reviewing the documents, trying to pull it up now. I think on the regulation number 14, it seems a little bit ambiguous at best, so I didn't know if there was maybe some room for clarification in that, and some suggestions at looking at it is, I don't know if we can pull it up or what would be best to take a look at it. Number 14, in reading it, there may be some modifications to use as far as the first couple words, FHEA, and insert organization, can obtain up to 180 days of release time. FHEA members and those who hold state national positions requiring more than 10 days of the release time, and adding will obtain district approval of their schedules at the beginning of the school year as soon as the members become aware of specific dates, and then the rest continues naturally. And I think that probably falls in line with what the current practices already are. I just wanted to maybe clear up some of the language on there.
Okay.
And so it would change will notify to will seek approval, or what were you suggesting?
Will obtain district approval. That'd be the 4 words added along with organization. I can reread it again if you guys want.
So we need a motion.
I would like to entertain a motion to modify point 14 on the regulation. The FHEA organization can obtain up to 180 days of release time. FHEA members and those who hold state or national positions requiring more than 10 days of the release time will obtain district approval of their schedule at the beginning of the school year or as soon as members become aware of specific dates. And the rest of it carries on naturally.
So I'll second that amendment.
Okay. Any discussion around that change? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
And then we need to
So
go
now-
back and vote on the original motion.
Okay, any more discussion, board, on the original motion? Questions, clarifications, anything? Okay. Then board, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Dr. Hopen with the Inclusion and Equity Update.
Thank you. As I report each month, our Equity Committee continues to go through our equity audit, and we'll spend the summer continuing to discuss our findings and offering input and advice for me to be able to eventually come forward with recommendations. I do want to make some additional statements regarding our equity work. I'd like to address the concerns that have been brought forward by community members regarding critical race theory. We have shared with many who have asked that we have not adopted critical race theory as our curriculum framework. We are, however, moving toward more equitable practices for all of our students. Our entirely positive efforts to support all of our students have been mischaracterized and inaccurately portrayed by those trying to stall our efforts. Projecting a specific agenda onto our work is a gross misrepresentation of what we are doing to make our district a more inclusive place for all. We are not and have no interest in advancing any political agenda. We are, however, interested in supporting all students and will continue our work in this area.
Thank you, Dr. Hopen. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Superintendent Comments. Dr. Hoven.
Yes, I have 2 different comments this evening. First, I am concerned about much misinformation that has been shared regarding the negotiated topic of FHEA president release time. The district has remained quiet on this for 2 main reasons. 1, while the process was ongoing, we did not want to appear as trying to influence the outcome of the ratification vote. 2, we have no interest in engaging in a public back and forth. We value our teachers tremendously, and a public debate would further hurt that relationship. Now that the process has ended and the votes have been cast, we will be sharing the district thoughts on many of the commonly presented issues and questions. It is our hope that people will see the other side of these issues. It is important for people to remember that there will still be a union president. It is just the release time that will be eliminated. We are not attempting to silence any voices. We have offered repeatedly to help develop structures for the work that may be impacted by the elimination of release time, but those offers have been declined. We continue to want to show our support for teachers. I am confident that time will show that many of the concerns shared with staff will not come to pass. And the second topic tonight is I want to mention to everyone that tonight marks the last board meeting with us for Laura Heidenreich. I want to publicly thank her for her years of service with Francis Howell. She's been extremely valuable to our district, and I want to wish her the best of luck in her next chapter.
I echo everything Dr. Hoven just said, and we will miss you, Laura. We welcome Jane. Okay. Board, do we have any comments or requests?
I did just want to say thank you to everybody that is working on the Equity Committee. They are putting in a lot of hours over the summer, and so I just wanted to express my appreciation and gratitude for everybody doing that work, and also for the group that worked on the curriculum. I know there is a lot of time, effort, and a lot of detail that was put into that, and so I just wanted to express my support and appreciation.
I will echo that as well. Anything else, board? Any other comments, requests? Next up, we have our, if you could just please review the agenda under the information. And saying that, board, I would like a motion to return back to closed session. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.